My sister had always been jealous of my relationship with our parents, but when she went too far and stole the family's life savings, I confronted her. She told me I was overreacting and kicked me out of the house. "You're nothing without us," she said. As I walked away, I swore I would get back what was mine. What she didn't realize was that I was preparing to expose her lies and watch her life collapse. I'm 39. My sister Trina is 36. We both grew up in Eugene, Oregon, in a small house our parents worked their whole lives to pay off. Dad did construction for over 30 years. Mom was a nurse at Riverbend until she retired early to help care for Dad when his health went downhill. They were never flashy people. No vacations, no big purchases, just hardworking and proud of what little they had. I was the quiet one. I followed rules, got decent grades, and stayed close to home. I never asked for much. Trina was different. Always loud, always angry, always needed to be the center of everything. If I brought home an A, she'd find a way to get in trouble that same day so she could have the spotlight. That's not even an exaggeration. It was like she couldn't stand the idea of not being the one talked about. We didn't speak much after high school. She moved to LA for a while, tried some kind of modeling hustle, then came back 5 years later broke and bitter. I helped my parents with bills when I could. I even moved back in after Dad had a bad fall in 2018. Trina would float in and out. Never offered help. Never asked about them. But when Dad got COVID in 2020 and almost didn't make it, she suddenly showed up every weekend, acting like she was this devoted daughter. That was my first red flag. At the time, I was too tired to question it. I was managing Dad's appointments, trying to help Mom keep the house running, and working full-time remotely. Trina told me she wanted to share the load. I should have known better. Over the next year, things started shifting. Slowly. First, she suggested moving some of the savings to more secure investments. She had some friend, no name ever mentioned, who could help grow the money. I told my parents not to trust her, but they brushed it off. Trina was charming when she wanted to be. She'd sit with them for hours, pouring wine, talking about her new job in finance, how she was finally getting serious about her life. Then the legal paperwork started showing up. She told them it was just basic stuff, power of attorney in case anything happens, streamlining the estate, that sort of thing. I wasn't involved in those conversations. I should have been. In January 2023, I noticed something weird. I went to pay a medical bill for Dad from their account, an account I'd helped set up, and the balance was way lower than expected. I checked the statements. Massive transfers, tens of thousands, going to accounts I didn't recognize. I printed everything out, all the statements, every withdrawal, every new account. It added up to just over $147,000. Gone. I confronted her one night after she came by with some takeout, acting like she was doing us a favor. I waited until Mom went to bed. I asked her where the money went. She didn't even blink. "It's invested," she said, like that made it okay. I told her our parents had no idea what she'd done. She smirked and said, "Don't be dramatic. It's not like it was your money." I lost it. I told her she had no right. I told her she stole from the people who gave up everything for us. That's when she got cold. The fake charm dropped in an instant. She stood up and said, "You've always acted like you're better than me. Like you're the only one who cares about them. You're not. You're just some sad little woman living in her childhood bedroom, pretending she matters." Then she told me to leave. From my parents' house. I looked at Mom, who had come into the room at some point during the yelling. She looked tired. Not shocked. Not angry. Just tired. She didn't defend me. She didn't say anything at all. So I left, packed a bag, and drove off. I parked in a grocery store lot and slept in my car that night. And while I sat there, staring at the ceiling in the dark, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not just for the money, but for the way she made me feel like I didn't matter. For the way she broke everything we had. She thought I was weak because I kept quiet, because I didn't make scenes. But I've been watching. I've been keeping records. Emails, texts, voice messages. I even recorded one of her calls with that boyfriend of hers, some guy named Cody, where she bragged about cleaning out the old man's bank account. She doesn't know it yet, but I've already talked to a lawyer. I've already started putting the pieces together. She took everything from them. From me. But I'm going to take everything from her. After that night in my car, I stayed at a cheap motel just outside Springfield for a couple weeks. I didn't want to be seen in town. I was embarrassed, humiliated, but mostly I was furious. I spent my days working remotely, my nights documenting every single thing I could remember from the past year, dates, conversations, documents. I printed everything. Backed it up to multiple drives. I wasn't going to be blindsided again. But what I didn't expect was how fast Trina would twist the narrative. By the end of the month, word had gotten around that I had a breakdown and lashed out at the family. Trina had told everyone, my mom, our aunts, even the pastor from the church we grew up in, that I'd accused her out of jealousy. That I was unstable, bitter. She even said I had been secretly stealing from our parents for years. She made it sound so believable. I wasn't there to defend myself. I was suddenly the black sheep, the angry spinster sister who had always felt left out. And Mom? She bought it. When I finally called her, she was cold. Not angry, just distant. She said, "I don't know what's gotten into you, but I'm too old for this drama. If you can't be kind to your sister, then maybe you need some time to think." That cut deeper than anything Trina had done. I started digging harder. The savings were gone, yes. But there were other things I hadn't noticed before. The house had been refinanced. Twice. Without my parents understanding the full terms. I found paperwork where Trina had coached Mom into signing off on things she clearly didn't understand. Reverse mortgage scams, credit lines that were used for investment opportunities. But the money was never invested. It was spent. Luxury handbags. Spa weekends. Flights to Vegas. I traced it all back through her Venmo history, her public Instagram stories, her own goddamn vanity. She used them like a personal ATM. And when the funds ran out, she started angling to sell the house. I found the real estate inquiries on her email. She had already reached out to a broker, someone she knew from her network, about listing the house privately. She was planning to sell our parents' home, take the equity, and move across the country. And here's the part that nearly made me vomit. She had already applied for a senior assisted living facility for Mom and Dad. One of those budget care homes with a long waiting list and a bad reputation. She filled out the paperwork without them knowing. Claimed they were too mentally diminished to make their own decisions. She was going to ship them off, take the house, and vanish. I called my dad. Left voicemails. Texted. No answer. I later found out she had changed the passcode on his phone and blocked me. He didn't even know I was trying to reach him. She had isolated them, controlled their mail, set up auto-forwarding on their email. She had full legal and financial control, and she was abusing every inch of it. I didn't cry anymore. I didn't panic. I got quiet, focused. I contacted Adult Protective Services. I gave them everything. Bank records, recordings, screenshots of messages, power of attorney forms that smelled like fraud. The woman I spoke to took me seriously. Said it would take time, but I had a solid case. Then I went back to the lawyer I'd consulted earlier. We drafted a petition to revoke the power of attorney, arguing undue influence and elder financial abuse. We filed it in Lane County Court. It was only the beginning, but it was enough to trigger a formal investigation. Trina still doesn't know what's coming. She thinks I'm done. Thinks she humiliated me, cast me out, and won. But every day that passes, more pieces fall into place. I used to want her to apologize, to give the money back, to make it right. But now I want her exposed. And I want to be there when it happens. The court date was still weeks away, but the Adult Protective Services investigation had already started. They interviewed my mom and dad separately, which wasn't easy since Trina had full control of their schedules. But I guess she didn't expect the knock at the door from APS investigators. She wasn't prepared. She started calling me nonstop the week after the visit. Blocked number. Voicemails full of venom. "You think you're so clever," she said in one message. "You don't even know what you're messing with." She was unraveling. That's when I knew I had to keep pushing. Because for the first time, she was scared. A week later, I got a call from someone I hadn't expected to hear from. Darren, our old neighbor who still lives across the street from our parents' place. He said he needed to tell me something but didn't want to getting back to Trina. He said that back in April, he overheard Trina in the backyard, screaming at someone on the phone about needing Dad's diagnosis in writing.
He thought it was weird at the time.
Then, a few days later, she came over and asked if he'd be willing to help her out with a form. It was some kind of witness signature claiming she was the primary caregiver for a legally incapacitated adult. He refused. That rang every alarm in my head. I went back through the court petition, dug deeper into the power of attorney paperwork. And that's when I saw it. A medical assessment filed after Dad had COVID, signed by a doctor I'd never heard of, stating he was not of sound mind. Problem was, I'd just talked to Dad on the phone 2 weeks before Trina cut off contact. He wasn't perfect, but he was still sharp. Forgetful sometimes, but he knew who I was, knew what day it was, even asked about my job. He wasn't incompetent. I searched the doctor's name. The license was real. But the clinic address? A UPS mailbox. Trina had forged the evaluation. Or paid someone to create it. That document was the backbone of everything she was doing. The reverse mortgage, the POA, the attempt to put him in a care home. She used it to take over legally, and no one had questioned it. Until now. I handed all of this to my attorney. He was stunned. Said this pushed everything into criminal territory now. Not just civil fraud. This was potentially felony elder abuse and identity fraud. But here's where it got complicated. My mom refused to believe any of it. When APS asked her about the bank accounts, she defended Trina. Said she trusted her completely. When asked about the forged documents, she waved it off. "It's all a misunderstanding," she said. "My girls just need to stop fighting." Mom was still protecting her, even as Trina stole everything. That's when I finally had to accept something painful. Mom had chosen her. Not because she truly believed in her, but because it was easier than admitting she'd been manipulated. Trina knew how to work her, knew how to make her feel dependent. She poisoned our relationship slowly, over time, until I became the outsider. But none of that changed what I was going to do. With the new evidence, the court granted an emergency injunction. Trina was served, face pale, fake smile cracking in front of her car as the process server handed her the envelope. I wasn't there, but Darren said she looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. She still doesn't know how much I've uncovered, how many people she's pissed off, how many of her fake documents are about to be dissected in court. She thinks this is still just a family spat, that she can talk her way out of it. But that forged doctor's letter? That's going to destroy her. And when it does, I'll be sitting in the front row, watching her whole fantasy collapse. The court hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Thursday. I arrived early, wore plain black slacks, hair pulled back, no makeup. I wanted to look like exactly who I was. The daughter who had been ignored, stolen from, and dismissed. Trina showed up 15 minutes late, waltzing into the courtroom like she was stepping onto a stage. Tight black dress, hair done, fake designer purse on her shoulder. But her eyes kept darting around. She was sweating even though it was barely 65 degrees that morning. She had hired some smug defense lawyer out of Portland, young, expensive, and clearly thinking this would be an easy family dispute he could drag out in mediation. He didn't know what was coming either. My attorney started with the paperwork, bank statements, power of attorney forms, the bogus medical evaluation. Trina's lawyer tried to object, claiming it was a misunderstanding. That's when we dropped the hammer. The expert witness. We tracked down the real physician whose name was on the medical evaluation Trina had submitted. She testified under oath that she never saw my father, never wrote or signed that report, and that someone had stolen her identity and falsified documents using her license number. It was the quietest the courtroom had been all day. Trina's face drained of color. Then came the APS investigator. She detailed everything. How Trina controlled their mail, blocked my phone number, rerouted their prescriptions, filled out facility applications without consent. She even mentioned the bank accounts Trina had funneled money through using Cody's name, accounts now frozen under fraud investigation. And finally, my dad. He took the stand. He was thinner than I remembered, a little slower, but his voice didn't shake. When asked if he knew about the $147,000 being withdrawn, he said flatly, "No, she lied to us." Then they asked if he trusted Trina now. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "I wish I didn't have to see her again." That was it. You could have heard a pin drop. The judge revoked Trina's power of attorney on the spot, ordered a full audit of all finances related to my parents. The case was escalated to criminal court, and Trina was taken into custody for fraud and elder abuse right there in the hallway. She screamed.
Loud. Cried.
Called my mom, who didn't answer. Called Cody, who had apparently already disappeared. It got worse for her fast. Turns out, Cody had been using her. Most of the investment money had gone into crypto schemes under his name, and he took off when the subpoenas hit. The IRS opened an investigation. The state filed felony charges. Her name was ruined. She lost everything. Her car, her apartment, even her reputation in town. People who once believed her turned their backs. She called me from jail one night. I let it go to voicemail. "You did this," she sobbed. "You ruined my life." I deleted the message. As for Mom, it took time. She was quiet for a long while. Angry at first, maybe more at herself than me. But after the ruling, after everything came out, she started calling again. At first, just short conversations. Then longer. Eventually, she apologized. Dad moved in with me a few months later. He's doing better now, has a good doctor, daily walks, a bit of peace. Mom visits often. She's started therapy. We're rebuilding.
Slowly. And Trina?
She's serving 5 years in state prison. Might get more when the federal charges are done. She said I was nothing without them. But the truth is, she was nothing without the lies. And now everyone finally sees her for what she really is.